Little Miss Chatterbox by Raja Hargreaves. Little Miss Chatterbox talked more than a lot. She talked all the time, day in and day out, week after week, month after month, year in and day out. She never stopped. She didn't know it, but she even talked in her sleep. She had a brother. I bet you can guess what his name was. That's right, Mr. Chatterbox. She looks a bit like him, don't you think? You should have heard them when they got together. You couldn't get a word in edgeways or sideways or anyways. Have you ever heard about somebody being able to talk the hind leg off of a donkey? Well, Mr. Chatterbox could talk the hind legs off a donkey, and his sister could talk the hind leg off an elephant. Now this story's about the time little Miss Chatterbox decided to get herself a job in a bank in Happy Land. At 10 o'clock one morning, Mr. Happy strolled into the Happy to Lend You Bank in the middle of Happy Town. He took out his checkbook, wrote a check, and went to the counter. Behind the counter, on the first minute of the work, stood little Miss Chatterbox. She smiled at Mr. Happy. Mr. Happy smiled back. "Good morning," he said cheerfully. "Well," said little Miss Chatterbox, taking a deep breath. For the time of year, it was a good morning, but not quite as good as the morning we had yesterday. But I dare say tomorrow it would be a better morning. But it's quite a good morning for a Monday morning, and she went on and on and on until it was time for the bank to shut. Mr. Happy was just standing there, with his mouth open in amazement. He'd been there for hours. "And now," continued little Miss Chatterbox, "it's time for the bank to shut and time for me to go home. So goodbye. Nice talking to you, Anne." And she went home, leaving poor Mr. Happy without any money. The following day, she was fired. She got herself another job in a restaurant. They eat a lot. It was Tuesday morning, and at midday, Mr. Greedy walked into the restaurant and sat himself down at a usual corner table. He always ate there on Tuesdays because that was the day they served extra large portions. The waitress came up to take his order. "What's the soup of the day?" Mr. Greedy asked the waitress. "Well," said little Miss Chatterbox, for she was the waitress, "the soup of the day is tomato, but we also have other soups, other menus such as oxtail and vegetable and chicken noodle, but we have lots of other things to start with, such as," and she went on and on and on until midnight. Mr. Greedy was still sitting there, listening in amazement. He'd been there for 12 hours listening. "And now," continued little Miss Chatterbox, "it's time for the Eat-A-Lot restaurant to shut, and time for me to go home, so goodbye. Nice talking to you, Anne." And she went home, leaving poor Mr. Greedy without feeling rather empty. The next morning, she was fired. The same thing happened all week long. On Tuesday morning, she was fired as an assistant in a hat shop. Miss Splendid went to the shop to buy herself a new hat, but she couldn't. "Oh, madam, I just sent the hat for you, and I know it's you're gonna love it, but pink. Because it's pink, and pink is your favorite color." It was all talking, no hats. On Friday morning, she was fired to job as a secretary to Mr. Uppity. Mr. Uppity, incidentally, was the richest man in the world. I just thought you'd like to know, but poor Mr. Uppity didn't make anybody today. That little Miss Chatterbox is working for ROWLFM. Oh, no. Oh, Mr. Uppity, I never worked in an office. And before you get so excited, would you like a cup of coffee in yours? Which side of my says, "Do you want it?" It was all talk and no work. But the story had a happy ending because at the end of the week, little Miss Chatterbox managed to find herself a job that suited her down to the ground and up to the sky. That Saturday morning, Mr. Chatterbox was at home in Chatterbox Cottage, which is where he lived. Mr. Chatterbox was at cross because his watch had stopped. and had arranged to meet Little Miss Sunshine at 7 o'clock and had no idea what the time was. So he decided to telephone the speaking clock to find out what time it is. He dialed the number. At the third stroke, it will be 6:25 and 15 seconds. Little Miss Chatterbox took a deep breath. Pip, pip, pip. At the third stroke... Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. At the third stroke, it'll be 6:25 and 20 seconds. Pip, pip, pip. That's funny, thought Mr. Chatterbox to himself. That sounds just like my sister. And oh boy, that's Bomber Food's cat. I need someone to fix my eyes. Like someone in previous content. This is just some stick. Oh, fun. What is that? Mr. Noisy gets something else again. I think you better try and see if you want to buy, if you want to. I'll better try if you want, but I think I would stock. Well, I think it's some egads. I like a piece of I think Miss Chatterbox actually sold that teddy bear meeper. What if it's sold out? That like some bucks. You fuck.